Hey guys, my name is Matt Balducci and welcome to my book reviews. I'm super excited for you to tune in because this week I'm covering a book that honestly is just absolutely amazing for entrepreneurs, business owners, athletes, anybody that wants to be a top performer, executives, and so on and so forth. I can keep going on and on and on. It's really for anybody that wants to understand how to be successful. The book is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and it is absolutely amazing book, and here's why. It's a super easy read. If you know anybody in the military, you're gonna get a better understanding of what they went through, but you're also gonna get a better idea of what people in the military actually learn. And Jocko, if you look him up, which I highly recommend doing right now, Google him, is a badass. Simply put, he's a badass. And so when you look him up, unbelievable story of how he got to where he's at today. He was a super high up leader during the Iraqi and Afghani war. And again, guys, check it out. He's got a great Instagram. He motivates people. He's a keynote speaker. And really what he does now is he actually runs a management consulting practice that he works with some of the biggest companies and sports teams in the world. And the reason so is he is qualified over and over and over again to be that person that teaches people management. And so I want to dive into the book. Now, before I do that, I want to give you guys the quick overview of why I have this book review channel. Simple and very easy. I want more people to read. I right now currently run a multi-million-dollar company. I also own and operate my own high-performance coaching business where I coach top entrepreneurs to be successful in their career. One of the things that I give all of them is I give them a book list. And on that book list, this book is already on there, but basically what I try to get them to do is at least read one book a month minimum, if not two. I'm reading one book a week this year. I'm reading 60 books in 2018. That's what I'm trying to do, is get more people to read. Because I can steal Jocko's knowledge and understand and get his all his information that people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for, and I can read it in a book. So, go get the book. Okay, so what I want to do, guys, is I want to dive into my top 3 takeaways from this book. So the first one, which I have written down, is there's no such thing as a bad team. There are only bad leaders. And so what that ultimately essentially means is that if you have a team of people that function and can actually do the job that you're asking them to do, really it's the leadership that actually makes a huge difference in terms of if that team succeeds or fails. And so in the book, Jocko actually gives a great example of this where they're doing a boat race, which is part of Navy SEAL training, which is what he was and is. He's a badass. Check it out, okay? But what this boat race was is there was 6 boats. And on boat 1, they put an awesome guy that was leading the charge, and the guys were great, and that boat all won. Boat 6, which was an important boat, had a leader and it had a team, and the whole time during the contest they were all individual and they were bitching to each other. They were pissed off. The leader blamed everyone on the boat, and it was crazy, so they came in last. So then they had another boat race, and what they did is they swapped leaders. And the team 1 was pissed off because they lost their awesome leader. They felt like they gelled, and boat 6 was like, oh, thank God. Whew. You know, and the leader that had to switch to boat 6 was a little upset at first, but then he got to know the guys on boat 6. And the leader that was on boat 6, the crappy leader, got moved to boat 1. And I'm sure you guys can make the assumption of what happened. Boat 6 that came in last place came in first place, right? And that was because the new leader understood how to take ownership. The guy that took the first place people to last place, and simply was that he blamed everyone versus himself, which he was the one to blame. So again, I'll give you another personal example. When I was in high school, I played on my high school football team. I was lucky enough to make varsity my freshman year. I was a linebacker in my freshman and sophomore year. We went 3-12. We were horrible. Basically the losingest team in our division. It was not fun. The guys on the team, you know, were great guys and great athletes, but here's the crazy part. We switched coaches my junior year. We brought a new guy in named Pete Thanos. So if Coach Thanos ever watches this, thank you, Coach Thanos, because you're a true leader. And that year we went undefeated and won the City of Chicago championship for football, right? Same kids. Everyone on the team was the same. New coach. So that just proves right there, guys, when you put the right leader in as long as the right leader has the right team, you guys can go kick butt. But I see it all the time. I run a business where I have district managers and they coach sales teams. And I see it all the time where one sales team with great people end up not doing as well because of the leader. And then I see somebody who maybe isn't the greatest salesperson with a good leader, and that person ends up doing really, really well. And so again, guys, look out for that in your life and look out for that in your business. Obviously with your management team, if you're a CEO or entrepreneur and you own your own company, make sure you're putting the right people in charge, because a lot of times what people do, including at my wife's company, a lot of people, they just move people up to management because they've been there for X amount of years. And then that person has no clue how to be a manager, and it just kind of half-ass it. And in my opinion, it's not a good way to build a company. Takeaway number 2 is that leaders need to explain the why behind everything they're doing. So sometimes as a leader, you have to tell your team that they have to do something they hate. So for instance, in my company, one of the things that my salespeople typically don't like to do is they don't like to go door to door, which is a huge chunk of my construction company, where we get a ton of leads and our guys can actually make sales from it. And that's how we basically function, and we run multi-million-dollar company based on that. But our guys don't enjoy it. But what we have to do is sit down with them and explain why they're doing it. And once they understand the why, they actually then get more excited to go do it. And sometimes you just have to do that, guys, especially as a leader. And there's a difference between a manager and a leader. A leader is somebody who, I'm talking about this book, extreme ownership. They take ownership, but really what they do is they take ownership, making sure their people or their employees, their subordinates, their whatever, the people that look up to them as a leader, they actually explain why they're doing everything. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years, is that ultimately what it came down to is that as a leader in my company, anytime I just forced my guys to go do something without explaining the why, they always hated it, they resented it, and sometimes they didn't do a good job at it. So what you sometimes have to do, guys, is sit them down. Even if they don't understand or they don't like it, you have to sit them down and explain it to them. Takeaway number 3 is what's called decentralized management. Now, this one is really the biggest takeaway I took, because again, I run a pretty sizable organization where I have 60 to 100 sales reps. I have 4 to 7 district managers, and I also run a couple other businesses like I mentioned earlier in the meeting. And sometimes what I find is that we put too many people on a person's team and they can't manage them the right way. So what this book talks about, which I actually 100% agree, is that a leader can really only manage about 4 to 6 people. Once they get past 4 to 6, now they have too many people to pay attention to, and it actually has diminishing returns for everyone in the group. Now, you can get up to 10, but if you get up to 10, you have to have somebody on your team who's kind of your right-hand man or the right-hand person. So let's just say, for example's sake, you have a branch office. And in that office, you have a manager of that office. Or let's use gyms, for example, right? And you have a general manager, and that general manager has 4 personal trainers that they're managing, right? Or and all of a sudden, that gym is going great. Then you have gym number 2, where the general manager has 20 personal trainers. The problem with that is, I'm telling you right now, gym number 2 is going to be a cluster, you know what, right? And ultimately what it's going to come down to, guys, is that that person just is overwhelmed. They have too many people to pay attention to. And if you don't have systems in place, it's going to blow up in that gym. Even though they have 20 personal trainers, they're going to have a huge diminishing return on the actual people and what they bring in. So decentralized management is a super, super important skill to learn. And also when you're structuring out your companies, you have to truly understand that in regards to being successful as a business owner or manager. So guys, subscribe below. Comment if you enjoyed this book review. I went into very quick and basic things I took from this book. I honestly recommend reading it. When you read the book, you're gonna basically hear a ton of awesome stories from Jocko. 2 big things he tells stories on. One is obviously when he was in the war, and which are just obviously not fun to listen to, but they are interesting to hear how he had all these dynamics, especially in one of the most stressful points ever, right? When you're gonna get shot by a gun. And then you have number 2, he tells stories of what he's done with different people that he's consulted for and how he's basically take these principles and implemented them in many different companies, and it gives you a better realistic view of what he's talking about. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe below and look for my next book review. Thank you.